Hey folks, welcome back to Where's Walter. Today, we're going to make no-knead bread. Making bread doesn't have to be hard. You don't need a special oven, you don't need a special bread machine. All you need is some flour, yeast, salt, and water. In this recipe, this is actually from the New York Times. This is called no-knead bread. Now, this is going to take 24 hours, so it's not like we're going to make this dough right now and then go right in and bake it. So this recipe is simply 3 cups of flour, just all-purpose flour. This flour happened to be bleached only because in the store there was no unbleached flour, so I got bleached. So all-purpose flour, 1 5/8 of a cup of water. Then we're going to need 1½ teaspoons of salt. And then yeast, 1/4 teaspoon of yeast. Now that would be, those little packets. And if you don't make a lot of bread, I would highly recommend you just go buy little packages of instant yeast. This way it'll stay fresh. But if you really get into this and you see just how easy this is, I want to say this is from Costco or something like that. Just a big bulk amount of yeast, and we're just going to go ahead and scoop out 1/4 teaspoon. So step 1, we're going to dump the flour into a big bowl. Now you do want to do this into a big bowl because it's not going to come out of this. Once we put everything into this bowl and we mix it up, it's not going to come out of here. If you don't have a big bowl like this, maybe you've got like some old pots around, you can use an old pot. It doesn't have to be a bowl. Almost everybody has a pasta pot, right? So make sure that you use a big bowl when you get started. All right, so the flour's in there. Now I'm going to add 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt. Just, 1 1/4 teaspoons. That feels about right. Italian kitchen. And then we're going to need 1/4 teaspoon of the yeast. So get the yeast, measure that out. That's about 1/4 teaspoon, you think? Yeah. Sprinkle that around. So the water will help to wake up the yeast. The yeast is a living organism. So it needs to wake up, and that's what's going to make all those lovely bubbles in our bread and make it rise. You see, this is not scary. Look at that. So we've just kind of mixed it up. Okay, just get some plastic wrap. Here we go. This bowl is going to take a couple of pieces. There you go. We've got dough wrapped up. Now we're just going to let this sit for 18 hours. Well, good morning, everybody. It's actually been about 19 hours since we put the dough in here and covered it all up. And what we're looking for is for the top to have beautiful bubbles on it. And take a look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. So that's the yeast doing its thing. So we haven't done anything. We just left it in a bowl, covered it up overnight, and there we go. Now we've got about 2.5 more hours before we're ready to bake. 2 more steps. Let's go. Now we want to get the dough out of the bowl, but we want to be very careful. You don't want to go squeezing into this and mess up all those beautiful bubbles that we spent 19 hours creating. I happen to have this little scraper right here. But if you're going to use your hand, just kind of go gently around the bowl and just kind of scoop it out. So I'm going to kind of get in there with my little scraper and gently as I can. And it's kind of like the blob. Now what we want to do is we want to fold it over once or twice. That's it. Don't want to disturb it too much. I'm going to use a metal scraper that I have. Grab this, just kind of fold it over on itself. And then I'm going to scrape it again and fold it over on itself. Now just cover lightly with some plastic wrap. I'm going to sprinkle a little extra flour on there just to kind of keep the plastic from sticking too much. And there we go, just lightly. Don't pat it down, don't make it too tight or anything like that. Wait about 15 minutes, let this rest, and then we'll go on to the next step. I'm gonna get dressed. Okay, ready for the next step. And for this, you're going to wanna have 2 cotton towels. Make sure they're not terry cloth, that they're actually cotton. And then one of them, go ahead and sprinkle it generously with cornmeal. We're going to put the dough on top of here, so you want to have a lot of cornmeal, or you can use flour, and you can also use wheat bran, but just something to keep the dough from sticking to this towel, because once we work the dough, we're going to drop it right onto this, and then we're going to cover it with the other towel. I just have this sitting on a cooking sheet, just to make it easy. Pull the plastic off our dough, and now what we want to do is we want to shape this into a ball. Again, we want to be very careful. You don't want to go grabbing into it because you're going to get rid of all those beautiful bubbles that we worked so hard to create. So I'm going to use my bench scraper again. I'm going to put a little bit more flour on here. You want to be careful not to put too much flour on here. I'm going to use the bench scraper to go ahead and get this up off the counter. Kind of fold it over, kind of fold it over, kind of trying to very quickly turn this into a ball with as little work as possible. And once I feel like I've got it into a ball, put the seam side down just like that. Now what I'm going to do is cover it with more cornmeal so that the other towel doesn't stick. Cover this with the other towel. Been 2 hours. Look at that. And then the other thing that you want to look for is when I poke it with my finger, it doesn't just spring right back. See, there's still a hole in there. Now we're going to do a 2-part baking process. So for the first part, we're going to have this covered. And then for the second part, we're going to have it uncovered so that that crust really goes well. Now for this, I'm going to use one of my grandmother's really old cast iron enamel covered Dutch ovens. And so what I did was about a half hour ago, I turned the oven on. It's at 450 degrees. And I put the Dutch oven in the oven when I turned it on. So it's nice and hot. And if you don't have a cast iron Dutch oven, you could use something like a big old cast iron pan and maybe just, you know, put some foil on it. Just make a nice little bridge of foil so that the bread still has some room to rise. You can also use Pyrex baking dishes, but whatever you use, make sure you put it in the oven first so that it heats up. Be very careful taking it out. Obviously that pot is 450 degrees. I have these UGG gloves. Woo! All right, here we go. We're gonna pick this up. It's gonna be messy. There's really no way around that. I'm gonna try to get up underneath. Woo! Here we go. Woo! Let it fall right in there. Look at that. Didn't quite land in the center. I'm just gonna shake it a little bit. There we go. Now it's in the center. Close that up. Whoa. Woo, that is hot. All right, so we're gonna go 30 minutes covered. And after 30 minutes, we'll take the lid off. And we're gonna let it go for at least 15 minutes and up to 30 minutes. You know, everybody's oven is a little bit different. So what we're looking for is to get that really nice dark crust. We'll see that in a little bit. Woo. Look at that. That is really looking pretty. It's baked up very nicely. So now we're going to go ahead and let it go for another at least 15 minutes, maybe up to 30. And finally, we have bread. I ended up baking it for an extra 20 minutes instead of the 15 uncovered. Now, is it perfect? No. As you can see, it looks more like a disc than a big old loaf of bread. And I probably should have brushed off more of the cornmeal on the top before I started it baking. But you know what? It smells amazing. Listen to this. Nice hollow sound on the inside. That's exactly what bread should sound like. So I can't wait to cut into this. Okay. Oh my gosh, that is a crusty bread. Oh my goodness. Now it might be like a little disc. But look at the hole here. I'm going to show you. Look at the holes in there. Oh my gosh, this is probably one of the best breads I've ever baked. And again, is it perfect? No, it should certainly be a little bit taller, but it looks gorgeous. I'm going to cut into this again. Oh, listen to that. Oh yeah, that is a beautiful bread. Now this reminds me of the breads like we used to buy in New York. Is it perfect? Again, no. In fact, now that I feel this, it could have certainly baked a little bit longer. I was afraid that it was going to burn in there because of my oven. Oh, that's really good. It's going to make it even better. A little olive oil, good extra virgin olive oil. Oh, that's really